Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the very, very first special installment of a new fun little project we are launching with the CA Media here for your enjoyment. This is the Continental Cast. Not to be confused with the casting couch, of course. Don't get it confused with that. This is a fun little project that we've been working on starting up, me and Jeff. And we're excited to bring it to you all. If you remember a while ago, we had this little CICG podcast called The Daily Guardsman. It was pretty successful, I'd say. This is essentially going to be the same thing, just with CA wide branding and just overall done better. It's going to be released at a higher quality, stuff like that. So, without further ado, I am your beautiful host, King Swag.
And I am your co-host, Jeff.
And for episode 1 of the Continental Cast, we decided we need to essentially, quote unquote, come out swinging. We need a hot start. We need a fast start to get you guys really interested in this and get you guys watching. So, who else to interview than our high rolling celebrity guest, our beautiful owner, Mrs. Certain Sound? Round of
Hi, good
applause.
to be here. I'm glad you
Whoa.
consider me so high rolling. The fame and the
Thank you,
fortune that
thank you.
comes with the CA is unmatched.
It's very glorious. I know you love being here. So we're gonna waste no time getting into this. Since we're on the topic of the whole media thing and this new department of the media and all the reforms, what do you think of the media's progress, how it's developing, how we're doing over there? Because as you know, during the coup back in February, the media was pretty much blown up. It was blown up by terrorists, a terroristic attack. The server was destroyed, the group was in shambles, everything was just broken. So how do you think we're coming along over there?
It's going really well. I'm happy to see that it's still continuing to grow. I've put a lot of my own time into the media and the Post especially because I do really enjoy having that community newsletter. It was part of what inspired the forum to be created was the passion behind all the documentation that you all do. So I'm really excited to see
Right.
that we're even getting new projects with the media and with this and everything else. It's going really well.
Yeah, and as the I'm very grateful to hold the title of Secretary of the Media. I pride myself in creating a good product and everything that we do. We recently launched our big rebrand, new logo, very very sleek, very colorful. I like it. We have this new department coming out and so much more. Right now, our main focus is pretty much just gearing up for seasons, making sure we have casters and streamers ready for that. This is kind of just a giant advert, so if you want to broadcast seasons, do please join. We need you. I know my co-host Jeff. He's a department head in the podcast team. He's also a part of the newspaper and casting, I believe. So, what do you think of the development so far, Jeff?
I think it's been going pretty well. It's a steady pace, but things have up and downs. In the paper, we have a little bit of motivation issue on the writers, but there are those writers out there who do stand out a lot more, and they are the people who get the papers out. Obviously, myself, I do all the interviews. Obviously, I interviewed you, sir, and a while ago, and um, doing this podcast is actually really nice because it's a nice new thing, sort of for the CA wide. Obviously, those who knew the Daily Guardsman, they they saw what it potential it had, but for now, everyone to see this in the CA and it be a lot more bigger. Then it's
Yeah,
good.
there were several things that contributed to the downfall of the Daily Guardsman. There was just as we kept getting bigger and bigger, there just kept getting we had more and more problems arising, and we just couldn't address those problems. So, as the quote unquote head of it, I just made the call to shut it down. But those problems have now been solved with Father Time, and we're back. We're great to be back.
Hell
We're
yeah.
very happy.
So, obviously, open to another question here. As you've obviously been owner since around February, start of February or so, you and Ian, what kind of relations did you have with each other? Like during the coup, before the coup, after the coup? Was there anything like really tense between you at all, or is it how is it between you two?
Well, we knew each other before the CA because of work projects. I've done a lot of things for him and with his company and with local and everything else. So we'd always kind of known each other as coworkers. More than anything. Like, I don't know if I'd ever consider us like really close friends or anything. Um, Obviously, with the coup, there was that initial tension as things went back and forth, and there was a bit of confusion and do this, don't do this, figuring out the details. But I think since things have settled down and he's seen the progress we've made and the progress we've made so quickly and how well it's going and how well it's been received, he's pretty much stepped back entirely to just kind of hang out and occasionally we discuss new ideas for advertising and like methods of doing that more effectively, but that's about the extent of our conversations now.
Oh yeah. Well, also then, since you're owner, what actually is it like being owner? Because obviously you must get a lot of DMs, you must get people messaging you about development, you must get all sorts. Like, what's it actually like? Because not a lot. We've only had a couple owners in the CA, so
You probably get a lot of DMs.
oh yeah.
I certainly do, especially because I have a bit of a I hear unusual policy for previous owners in that I accept just about every DM I get, which means I usually go through at least 100 a day, if not several hundred, because I'm also monitoring all of the servers, several different group chats, all to discuss the CA, which means it's basically a 24/7 customer service job. I'm getting pinged nonstop all day, every day. I have a special watch that connects to the Discord so that I get every notification, no matter what's going on. It's draining for sure. It's tiring, and it's even taken a toll on my health in some cases, so I've had to dial it back just a little bit. But it's rewarding in the fact that the community obviously really cares for both the community and the games themselves, and I'm glad that I can contribute to keeping that alive for people.
It's great. Absolutely fantastic. I think obviously as being owner, being dedicated as well, obviously I can tell you are dedicated into sort of getting the group back to its golden stage, I guess you could
Golden
call it.
age.
And for that, I shall say, this is a new age of CICG, a golden age.
Oh, golden age, sure, we won't bring that up. Cody.
So I remember telling Certain this at one point in one of our one-on-one conversations that it's just weird. It kind of feels weird having an owner that responds because, no offense to the big man, we were pretty much neglected by Iron for many years, and that I remember since he had pretty much everything just muted, we would, like, including myself, like literally everybody would just ping him for stupid reasons because they knew he wasn't going to respond to it. So it's just weird when you ping Certain in the CA and she actually responds. However, it's very good for the growth of the CA actually now having an owner that shows her face, you know.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate it. It's definitely nice that I don't get the like constant pings that I did when I first joined, and that was still kind of an in joke. I do still occasionally get in for certain jokes or whatever, but yeah, I get every single ping in every single server and every single DM. I still have a lot of
remember
people that
how-
were
I remember
ex-commed that are mostly just ignored just in case they have something to report because I can't really ignore anything. It's all kind of information all the time. But it's for the
I
growth
remember how-
of the group.
I remember how distraught people were when they found out you're a woman.
So do I. I remember having to host that initial meeting just to
yeah, I
go
was there,
over
I remember.
everything, and it was absolute chaos.
Since you've taken over your ownership, you have prided yourself in trying to run ads as much as possible, right?
Yeah, I have. I think we've managed to run them every single weekend except for one when I was out for health reasons and not a lot of activity had been happening. So we were saving to do an extra advertising boost the next weekend. So that's been about it. We've run every weekend, every Friday to Sunday.
So I have to ask, with Iron's new sort of limited role in the CA and how it functions, I have to ask, is he still using the funds on illegal gambling websites?
He never used CA funds for the gambling. Those were sponsored by the people he works with. So CA funds never went towards those directly. But no, he doesn't generally use the CA funds for anything. We occasionally discuss how to use them for ads, like I said before. But so far, that is the only thing they get funneled towards. I don't even get them myself.
That's very interesting. I just had to clear that up because that was something everyone believed for a very long time.
Yeah, I saw some of the memes about it. But I am very happy to say that the CA funds were never used
sure
for the gambling.
Pretty sure I've asked you this before, so I kind of know the answer myself. However, I'd like to ask you again to just put it out there for everyone to hear, for everyone listening to this. What exactly motivates you to do CA every day? Because no offense to my comrades, I know we're a pain to deal with. So why do you roll out of bed every morning and say, I need to go lead the CA and make it better?
It's a good question, and it's a hard one to answer. The biggest thing for me, I think, is just that I can tell how much everyone really cares about this community and the friends that they've built, and I can tell how nostalgic this is for a lot of people. And so I have a lot of things that from my childhood and when I was making friends and stuff that I wish I could have held on to longer and that would have even continued in some small way. Because it's fun to be able to go back and see these things. And so I'm glad that I can play a part in helping other people get that sort of feeling. Um, Other than that, the CA has given me a couple of my own close friends at this point. So it's been fun to kind of learn how everything's going and just keep going on.
Yeah, I understand. It's just I was wondering that really personally because as far as I'm concerned, you have a life and you don't like need to be dealing with our nonsense every day. So I was just curious as to why you do choose to do that. But you're doing a very good job in my opinion.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You're right. I have other things, and I don't technically need to do this, but it's a community, and obviously they care about each other. And I've stepped into a role no one else can step into right now, so I'm gonna do what I can while I'm here, at least. And I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a little warning to all of her haters out there. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, since you say obviously you're not going anywhere, what actually are your like long-term goals for the CA, and like where can you sort of see us as a group, and like a year, etc., or in a long time from now?
It's really hard to go all the way to a year out, honestly, because so many changes are happening. Like, you're going to see next changes probably even within the next week, and we have seasons coming up, and that's going to see a lot of changes. And things have already changed so much, and including like community development and everything else we've done. Um, so it's hard to say for certain. My biggest goal is just to keep things growing and keep seeing more and more of what everyone wants out of this, right? More community involvement, more community voices, a larger community, um, getting updates to BH and things that people have requested for a long time, working on everything that we can to just continue to try and get this to a point where it's not just something everyone remembers, but something that people are still currently looking forward to. Um, so I'm sure I see with Bass projects, maybe a couple more mergers, maybe something else. For the most part, I just see it taking it on a day by day, month by month basis of things. The only thing that we have scheduled out that far is development updates, which I obviously can't expose a lot of for secrecy reasons. But we have about the next year to year and a half of development updates eventually sort of plotted out in order of importance and on different matters. And I think that'll be exciting to eventually see through.
Obviously, you mentioned development. This is a question that a lot of people have probably been asking ever since you made that announcement, or somebody made an announcement regarding possibility of a new skirmishes map or an
I think it
updated
was
skirmishes
Jatsby.
map. I think Jatsby possibly made the announcement, yeah. And everyone's been questioning, saying like when it might come out, because seasons are coming quite close as the days go by, and people are worried that maybe it's going to come out too late and they won't have time to prepare on that map. How much can you tell us about maybe dates or even just little hints on what might be on the map? Who knows? Maybe.
We're doing the best we can to get it out as soon as possible. I've been working really closely with the devs to make sure everything's going through. What I can say is that it's more than just a new map at this point. It is going to be a very good experience that I'm very excited for everyone to see, and that we're hoping to get that out soon enough for everyone to get a chance to practice on it before seasons. Obviously, we've already got a couple of HiCom members that we're working on tests with and play tests and finishing out the last details. So everyone should get a pretty good idea of what they'll see. For hints, I don't know what I can say by the time this will come out, but
I saw some people in lobby the other day talking about how they hope there's more buildings and not just ruins.
because of the setting, there's less of the sort of buildings that you're thinking of, but we do have a lot more points of interest and more cover. And we do have other sort of ruins-esque, like if we're talking about the location ruins, sort of points of interest for people to find and have fun with. So it'll be a really big update from anything you've seen in the last few years, really.
Well, as a just a very kind of vague question, are you hyped for seasons? Are you excited? This is your first seasons as owner. Do you have any predictions? Any spoilers?
No predictions or spoilers, but I am definitely a little bit excited and a little bit nervous. It has to go well,
Gets
right? This
very
is such a
intense. You'll
big,
come to learn.
yeah, it's such a big event for everyone that it's very nerve-wracking to make sure it all goes well. And
People
I'll
die
be
over this.
sitting, oh Lord. Um I, I'll be sitting in the background trying to make sure everything runs smoothly pretty much the whole time. And I'm really relying on my HQ, which I trust a lot, to help me get through this and to help handle through all of the very intense challenges that seasons will bring.
Could you see
Yeah.
yourself possibly even sitting through the first season match? I could see you attending. I think it'd be quite an interesting watch.
She should at least show up for the grand final.
The
I
grand
think.
finals, yeah, grand finals would be very interesting for you to show up to.
I'll
'cause
do my
Make
it's
best
sure you
quite-
just
to.
make sure you diss Dragoons the whole time.
I'll do my best to attend when I can. Like I said before, though, there's a lot of background stuff that goes into monitoring the servers and numbers and just making sure
Yeah.
everything runs smoothly in case there is an issue. But I'll do what I can to attend and cheer everyone on.
Jeff, if you remember, she needs to do the thing that Rel always did. That if you push, I'll give you Lom.
Oh
those
yeah,
announcements?
push and you get Legion of Merit.
Push and I'll give you Legion of Merit.
Push and you'll be my favorite child, or push and or you got to hate on Dragoons the entire season because Relevant Tyrant, I'll tell you now, he does not like Dragoons.
Well, I mean, if we're on the topic of the big man, I think we need to ask Certain here a very interesting question that everyone is clamoring to know. When is the boat Relevant Tyrant gonna be the commanding general again?
Well, maybe once he builds a time machine, right? I think that might do it.
I think he's working on it.
I could do it. Okay, it's gone silent. Do you want to ask the next question?
Oh, okay. So we're moving on. Okay. Well, actually, yeah. So the reason we chose to throw in the question about where do you see CA in a year from now is just out of curiosity because I always see, especially from people close to me in the CA, they always say like, "Oh, the CA's only got like a year left. The CA won't be here in a year." And if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, and it's just been false, I'd be a very rich man.
Yeah, it can be discouraging at times for sure. We get a lot of criticism and concerns about the CA in general, and I understand that. That's part of the passion that people have for the group, and it comes out in a variety of ways. But I really do think that we're going to keep the CA going strong one way or another. And I don't even think, even if for some way or somehow I did mess this up, that the CA themselves would let it die. The community's just been so avid and so intense about it that I don't think there's almost anything you could do to really kill it.
I have just two more quick things to add before we roll into our next topic. Jeff can fact check me on this, but the CA's been around since 2016, right, Jeff?
Around ish then on the colonies. That's like it was.
Yeah,
It was quite
2016?
old. Yeah, quite old.
So
maybe
CA
2017. I don't know.
So 2016, 2017, so the CA is going to be coming up on its 10-year anniversary soon, either next year or the year after. 10 years is a very long time, so we haven't died yet, so I really don't see the CA going anywhere as of right now.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be here to help celebrate the 10 years. That'd be a big and remarkable achievement. That'd be really cool to see, actually.
And another thing is that, back when, again, no insult to the big man, because even though he's not watching this, but when he was the owner, you could definitely, especially like right before the coup, like in January, like a month before, you could feel the tension. The tension was palpable in the CA. Anytime you were just like around the server and you just like read some of the messages, you could feel the tension. You knew that people weren't happy. So back then, you could tell that we were on a very fast downward spiral. But I think, and not to glaze because I can see the pings and quality pings about it now. I think since this new regime has came in, we've the downward trend has stopped, and I think we're finally on the upward trend again.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I really do. And I think everyone is really starting to see that. And it's been remarkable in that we've had way less toxicity and whatnot.
Oh
Those
yeah.
kinds of issues, right?
You couldn't even send a message in the CA server.
Yeah,
before.
moderating the
It
CA
was bad.
servers was kind of hellish. But we even had a remarkable time where we had a whole week without a single report because there was nothing to report.
Making MP's life very easy.
That's my goal, at least.
All right, so before we go back into all the CA talk about skirmishes and development and you know the deal, We're gonna kind of dive into your personal life because one of the reasons I started the Daily Guardsman all those years ago and now the Continental Cast is not only shine a light on some of the development of the CA, but to shine a light and kind of remind people that these are people, right? Certain Sound is a person. She's real, I think. That's what they told
I
me.
would certainly
That
hope
was that was
so.
that was in the notes when I got told we were doing this. But anyways, so we're attempting to kind of shine a light on her as a person with what she's comfortable with and kind of dive into more of her personality so we can get to know our new owner more because the last guy wasn't around much. I'll say that. So our question here is how are you like as a person? Like what are your hobbies? What are your interests? What do you do when you're not dealing with 13-year-olds on the CA?
Um, all right, let's get into that then. I am in fact a three-dimensional person. Um, I my primary hobby, especially lately, has been writing. I am an author. I have certain published works, and I enter competitions fairly regularly. And that's been one of the biggest things that I've been doing to kind of handle a lot of the stress of the CA, especially. Um, Beyond that, obviously, I pick up a lot of hobbies, seeing as I do the development, graphics, audio. Um, you find it, you name it, I've probably done it at least once.
But I have to
Yeah.
ask, are you a New York Times bestseller?
Not quite a New York Times bestseller. But I do have a fairly good established following under a pseudonym I'm not going to
Right.
tell you all. But I do regularly get thousands of readers, and it does feel pretty good. And I've won my own like number of competitions and gotten money from that, and that's been a lot of my life. Honestly, has been writing recently. I've really enjoyed it. Um, it's it's definitely its own challenge, especially when you get into the sort of genres that I do. If anyone here is aware of House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski, that pretty much sums up a lot of what I end up doing. So it's its own special brand.
So you could define yourself as a very like artsy and like designer kind of person. Very artsy.
I
That's a
suppose
word.
you could. I have a hard time doing that because growing up, I was always extremely sort of left-brained, as my family called me. I couldn't touch a pen or a pencil for the life of me, but I was really good with
A
math.
little bit on the slow side is what you're saying.
Hey! No, I was very good with like schoolwork. Like I could write an essay, I could do
Right.
math. I was the
Book smart.
science one. I was book smart for sure. But my sibling was actually the creative one. They still do art to this day and publish their work, and they're on YouTube and all these special competitions. Recently, the creative aspect of writing and stuff has actually been extremely recent. It started with just little one-off competitions and getting back into like essay writing like I used to do in school because I did end up enjoying that. And it moved more and more into that sort of creative field where I could finally explore like metaphors and stuff I've always really liked. But I think I have always done at least a little bit of writing, and that's just been kind of my escape from kind of reality at times has just been creating my own
Right.
sort of stories. I have been told they're somewhat macabre, however, so it's not as though I'm not a fantasy writer. I unfortunately am not doing the very fun comedy romance writing.
You know, I have a suggestion. You could write a very very lengthy and fiery novel about this abomination we call the Continental Army.
Hell yeah.
Someone already has. It's called
That'd be a
Dominari
very interesting
Nolo.
read. All right, so for everyone listening,
novel
go
length.
grab your copy of Damari Nolo out there. You can read about rifles if you're interested in that.
Oh,
Shout out
wow.
rifles.
So
Todd's
from
going to be
2019
salivating at that.
from 2019 to 2025.
That's
crazy.
also what the wiki is for. I'm hoping that people will go into that a little bit
Right.
more. It's gone a little stagnant, but it's really nice having those kind of records.
That would be a very interesting book. It's her autobiography about how she ran a group of 13-year-olds in a Lego army.
Hell yeah.
What's that one book everyone reads in school about how kids eventually
Great
turn
Gatsby.
into demons and start killing each other?
I have never heard of that one.
They're left
What's
alone
the
without
future?
adult supervision, and they have to form their own government. It's like children
Oh,
of corn.
on the island. Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm a little lost. I can't.
I know. I did read that. I'm not.
Everyone
insane.
reads it in school, and I can't remember what it's called.
Romeo
like-
and Juliet.
Oh, hang on.
Is it Children of the Corn? It's not Children of the Corn.
I didn't pay attention in school.
I'm gonna look that up. We can take a pause on this real quick.
Something
That's actually
Ashes.
really
Yeah,
intrigued
okay.
me.
75 years later.
Lord of the Flies? Is
Yes,
that
Lord of the Flies.
it? Yes, Lord of the Flies. That's
We
it,
got there.
yeah. There we go. I think Kingsman's still gone. Lord of the Flies. That's the book.
I
Lord of the
didn't
Flies.
read that in school.
I did read that. It was a great book.
I read Romeo and Juliet.
I did that too. Since obviously we've talked quite a lot about yourself and development, it's a bit of a joke question. There was a bit of a joke a while ago saying like, "Oh, when's Bunker Hill 2 coming out?" Was there ever actually a possibility of a Bunker Hill 2 or like a revamped, completely different game, Bunker Hill, or is it just going to really
Yes.
just be...
I think it
Yes, I heard the
was
same thing.
actually a concept for like
I think it was.
2
Yeah.
days. And then
We
was
asked Iron about it.
immediately like moved on to like, no, we should probably just fix what we have. But the
Yeah.
main idea was that it would be another sort of like game that people could use as like a social hangout that linked to all the other games,
Right.
rather than what Bunker Hill is, where it's sort of like a game mode and it's the hub. Instead of Bunker Hill 2, we're working on a bunch of other things instead, but I think that'll be much
Right.
more beneficial long run.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Jeff,
definitely.
wasn't you remember the new map they were working on with Crown Only's map? Wasn't that technically Bunker Hill 2?
That was gonna, they planned on that being Bunker
Yeah,
Hill.
that was gonna be
2,
Bunker Hill
but-
2.
Yeah, but
That
the
was
thing
it
is,
was a very good map.
it was a very cool map. The only issue I had with it was it wasn't Bunker Hill. It was a completely
Yeah.
different. It wasn't the Battle of Bunker Hill. It was just a random map with cool features, just named.
I don't
Bunker
yeah,
Hill.
'cause I don't think the current map is
It's not historically accurate either, but I've been
Yeah.
thinking about making it more so. Mostly
we
as
could.
my
I think
own
that'd be
little idle idea rather than an
Yeah.
actual plan at the moment.
What negative does it have? It might just add more hills, or add more scenery, or it could make it look nicer.
It's always a
Like, I
balance
mean,
of accuracy and then actual like gameplay, right?
Yeah, I remember when they updated Bunker Hill years and years ago in like 2020, 2021, and there was like when the BA fort used to just be sandbags, and it was and then they updated it.
Yeah, those were the days.
Those were the days. But yeah, no,
We
but
should
thanks for
add-
clarifying on the Bunker Hill
should-
too.
We should add more flying warships to Bunker Hill.
Hell yeah!
Because
let's go.
I'm looking at some pictures in the CA server of naval warships flying around the fort.
So certain, obviously, a lot of people have different views on HQ, and the new HQ since the incident in
H.
February happened. Yeah, HQ. So in the start of this, how were these certain members picked out? Like, were there certain qualities about them? Did you have a lot to say about them, or was it mainly just Bast and people who know them a lot making these decisions? Like, what actually happened in the deciding of HQ?
So there were several steps that happened, and actually this HQ as it stands, or as it stands at the time of recording, was selected primarily while Bass was under investigation. So he
I remember
didn't
that.
have much of a say at the time because we were still trying to determine what was going on. What ended up happening was I had opened candidacy so that people could apply and they'd give me sort of a resume of other groups they've led, what positions they've held. And so I was getting a bunch of information about potential ideas and candidates and people nominating others. And then what ended up really happening to get everyone kicked in place was we took some advice from our secret shadow government. A group chat got made that still is used to this day endlessly. And we kind of just talked it out amongst ourselves, amongst the current candidates, and I pulled information from that candidacy list to get me like ideas on who would fit best where. And we just kind of went from there. Everything so far has been very collaborative with the members of HQ that I have now. But I really do have my unnamed secret shadow government to name for a lot of it. He was always been a really big help in the background.
Is the secret shadow named Timothy Devkov?
It is not. Absolutely not. Definitely not.
Damn it. So as by the time everyone sees this is going to be pretty much old news by this point. However, this is happening in real time as we're filming this. Why the hell is it now immaturity to spam the bell on top of the MP tower? That was one of the funnest things to do in the damn game. People are pissed.
I love that so much.
It's so fun, right, Jeff? But now it's immaturity. What the hell, Billy?
MP got so pissed.
Just turn your volume down. Turn it off.
So pissed at me. Well, to be fair, even on one volume, I have my Roblox on one volume.
I play with zero volume pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
All right,
It was immaturity because the bell got changed, so there were it ended up being an issue for a little while of people actually causing problems by spamming the bell, which is why it got added. But again, most of ML is left to sort of Billy and Bast a lot of times, and then with my general oversight and touches on things and grammar checks and whatnot.
Yeah, I think these are a lot of good changes. I'm just kind of skimming through.
Yeah, it's. I think the ML's been nicely adjusted. I think Billy's done a decent job on that because obviously he has his history. He knows the ML at the back of his hand. He knows the grey area.
You should have taken this opportunity to flex on everybody, Jeff, and say, "Well, he didn't do it as good as me."
Well, he didn't know. Well, yeah, well, when the website went down, he didn't remake the whole NL into a document. But yeah.
All right, so certain. So obviously, when it comes to leading CA, you're gonna gain some ops. You're gonna gain some haters. Unfortunately, not everybody likes you. However, that's just life. You can't expect everyone to be your friend. Life advice with King Swag. So we want to know your opinion on quote unquote the haters. Like, for example, not to name drop and call people out, but the people who led the coup and some of them are now ex-con, some of them are still here. Those who oppose your leadership, basically, how do you feel? Especially because I've heard over time you get some very interesting, threatening DMs.
I do, and it's tiring, and it does suck sometimes to get so much criticism on every little move you make and be watched so closely all the time. But that comes with being a public figure. I think the best policy, and the one that I've been following since the beginning, is just kill them with kindness. Everyone has something to say because they care about this place, and obviously some things go beyond the line of acceptable. But for the most part, I try and just keep on keeping on and know that what I'm doing is inevitably going to work out for the best, and try and show them that I know what I'm doing and that things will get better. And I think that's worked out pretty good so far. I've noticed that a lot of that has decreased as time has gone on, and they've kind of seen progress being made instead of those kind of empty promises.
And another thing, I don't know if I've mentioned it in this recording yet. I might have, but I know I've talked to Billy about it before. Kind of my policy is, especially when I'm doing stuff in the media, someone's always going to have a problem with what you do in the CA. You can only hope to please as many people as you can. You can try to please the majority, but there's always going to be that one guy in that brigade that has a problem with it. You can't be perfect, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree. And that's part of why we've got things like the House and so many outlets for community voices, is so that we can do the best we can. Obviously, it's not always going to be perfect for everyone, but as long as we cover our basis and we're doing what we can, that majority of the community can generally agree with, I think we'll get through okay.
And yeah, speaking of the House, we actually have Mr. Speaker in VC, so I apologize for not thanking Mr. Speaker before I started talking.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
you got a permission to
Sorry.
speak. You got to thank the speaker. Yeah, no.
Permission to speak, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, well, denied. The house definitely needs. I think that announcement that was made when this episode comes out, probably a couple days ago, but it was yesterday. I hope it gets some people to come onto the forum, because I think the house and our representatives, we are definitely struggling to, maintain that, that smooth flow that the house always has at the start, but it's just gets to that slow bit and then that's what happens to crumble. So, I think I've actually got a question for you, sir, and I think I may have asked you this before in obviously our Senate Discord, but do you actually have any possible future plans for the house, or is it sort of to remain like just the same thing, but just sort of trying to ramp up the activity of it?
I've been thinking on that and discussing it as I've kind of come back. I was out for a little while and had to leave a lot of things to HQ, and which took a break from certain things, and there were some delays. But I do want to see more of the house. I think a lull isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as we can keep it up. But a lull could also just mean that there isn't much to say, right? That's kind of what I've been interpreting it as, right? Rather than it just means that I'm doing well enough with the community that they don't feel the outcry. But I like having that outlet available for when it does get to the point where people want to voice their needs. And I've seen personally several bills go through as well that I've worked with details on with some members. So I think we're still finding purpose for it, and we'll just keep having to keep watching that evolve and figuring out how that purpose works long term.
Well, I'm very glad that obviously you care so much about the house, because obviously I did, when the house was first coming out, I was quite unsure about it, because in the past HQ could just veto things. I'm really happy that you do have that voice for the house as well, the fact that you really want it to continue going, and you do obviously you don't allow for the vetoing unless it's really necessary. Only you can veto these bills. So I'm really happy that you do, support the house and really do want it to keep on going. Kingswag,
Permission to speak, Mr. Speaker.
That is granted. Thank
you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And again, I know the whole episode just kind of sounds like a diss on that one guy, but I promise we're not trying to sound insulting towards him. However, I think it's not even just the house, and again, this isn't Glaze, but not just the house. I think it's very refreshing to know that we now have an owner who doesn't neglect the CA and doesn't gamble all day, doesn't vape in his TikTok live streams. But anyways, like I said, it's great to know we have someone who cares about the CA in all aspects, as well as breathing a new life into it. Because like before Certain came in, as I mentioned earlier, there was no doubt we were on a downward trend. Like, you could just feel the tension. But it's like she's given us like a second wind now. We've got a second life. Not to hate on Mr. Devka, but
Bro said not to hate on him, but
yeah, that was a lot.
I think everyone agrees. I think everyone in the
I
CA
think we already
agrees.
said
He
all
didn't
that
exactly.
too. Just a recap of like why we should actually be
think
hating on him.
everyone
That was
in
a
the
little
CA
far.
agrees. He didn't exactly give us his best shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he said he would at the start. But also, this is going to be really off topic at this point, by the way. I don't think we mentioned this at the start. But I think instead of just thanking me, obviously Certain South being our guest, and obviously us two as me as your co-host and Kingswag as your host, but Certain Sound is actually very kindly enough to be recording today's episode.
She's the camera woman.
We do have a camera woman today.
I am, in fact, the camera operator.
We
She's
did have
filming her own episode.
We had some difficulties at the start with recording, so I do want to say another thanks to Certain Sound for being our lovely guest speaker and obviously being our camera woman as well. So
She's filming the first episode of the Casting Couch. It's great.
I'm happy to help. I've put in tons of my own effort into a lot of media projects and writing and with this, so it's just another step of that. I want to see it work, and I want to support it. So what I can do, sometimes there are issues, and the show must go on.
And another thing before we kind of wrap this up, as this is getting to be a pretty long recording, just like as kind of a PSA to everybody watching. This is episode 1, so obviously there's going to be some kinks that me and Jeff need to work out behind the scenes. But as always, both of us are completely open to suggestions about stuff that you guys want to see, things you want us to do. So never hesitate to DM either one of us. Also, if you'd like to come on here yourself and have your own episode, again, don't hesitate to DM us. I will tell you though, we're not going to interview literally everybody. You have to be somewhat interesting, no offense. Like, we're not going to do a whole 2-hour episode with a random rifles corporal. So no offense, but you have to be somewhat interesting. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, certain sound. You're very interesting. You're a perfect guest. However, I agree.
Well, yeah, we wanted to come out. We wanted to come out. We're not going to give a whole 2-hour episode to Little Timmy 554.
I'm sorry.
I
Skills
appreciate that I was
222.
interesting enough for not only an episode, but your first episode. I do really appreciate being here.
Yeah.
It was also
Obviously-
to it was also kind of like personal redemption for us because, like I said, we didn't do great on Iron's episode, so we're kind of redeeming ourselves with you.
I think this has been a lot better. A lot better.
Yep.
Seems to be a theme. There's redemption.
Anyway.
Well,
I
because
can-
again, not to insult Mr. Devkov, but
Oh, good lord. Not this again.
not to hate on him, but
Listen, I dislike sexual assault as much as the next guy. That's some bad stuff. Rape, boo, don't like it. But
well, I have to say it's been great to catch up with you, Certain. Thank you for agreeing to this. It's been great to chat with you about some future developments with the new skirmishes map that everyone is foaming at the mouth over, and stuff like that. So we're very excited to see how the CA progresses and what big moves you have up your sleeve next. We're very excited. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It's been great talking to you both.
So without further ado, I have been your beautiful host, King.
and I have been your co-host, Jeff.
And that wraps up episode 1 of the brand new Continental cast. Hope you fellas have a wonderful evening. Thank you for watching.
Insert end credits.
Well,
Did you say what,
it's going on YouTube, so
Okay.